Hi guys, this is Dan with Syntax, and today we're going to go over navigational commands. Quick other note, as we always say, please watch our previous videos on the subject here on this topic because we always build upon what we've previously learned and now what we're currently doing. Okay, so let's jump right in, and as we can see here, we see here that we have set up for a Chrome driver. If you hadn't watched, please watch our Chrome driver video, and this will make a little bit more sense. So we have a few navigation methods, a few methods in which we can travel to websites with our Selenium, with our web drivers here. And one of those commands, and we've seen this earlier, we've seen this in previous videos, is we're using our driver and we see here a get method. We see get is from our web driver, and this is going to be one of our navigational commands, one of the commands that we can do to travel to a website. And you've seen that happen before, right? So we're going to go ahead and use this method. And all we need to do is, again, just pass our URL on which you want to navigate to as a string, as an argument here, right? So let's just say we're going to go to let's say Google. Okay, now we're set up to go to Google. One other navigational command in order to travel to another website is, let's bring this up here, is called navigate. And we see here it's really nice. It says navigation and WebDriver. So Selenium and Java, they do a really great job of kind of letting us know what is what, and pretty easy to read if we just kind of pay attention here. So we have our navigate. Here's a navigate method, and we saw that was navigation with our WebDriver. Now one of the methods, like I talked about, is called navigate to. And we see here we have navigate to, and we can pass the argument as a string, or we can just put the URL here. Well, and we see here that's also navigation. To be quite honest, most kind of industry standard is to pass things as a string. So that's what we're going to do here. So let's go to Facebook, I think. There we go. So we're all set to go to Facebook. Now, with navigate, it also keeps the history of our browser. And what I mean by that is, let's just say, for an example, let's say I'm going to search for the weather. Now, I went here, I made a search, I'm going to weather.com. Okay, great. Now, our browser, as we know, our browser history is saved. So we can kind of play with that. As you see, we have a back arrow key, a forward, and a refresh. So what this does, and you guys have used this in the past, if I click back, it goes to where I was previously. If I click forward, it was on the last page, or the one right next to that. And then if I hit refresh, it just simply refreshes the page, right? So these are some of the commands that we have here with our navigate method here. So it does keep the history of our browser. Get doesn't do that. Okay, so we'll show you some of those methods here. We see navigate, and let's say, we'll go back for this one, so you can kind of see them all flow together. And we talked about back was just like that back arrow key, and we have driver navigate. Let's go forward for this one, and again, you guys see here it's also a navigational command here. So we're gonna choose forward, and then lastly, as we had saw, we have our refresh button, and we see here navigation as well. Okay, so not only does navigate have these methods here, and it goes ahead and tracks our browser history, in which we can go ahead and manipulate by these commands, but there's one other difference between get and navigate here. So get has something that's pretty cool that's built into this method here. So when we run our commands, we run our code is being given at a very high rate of speed here. So what get does is it waits and holds all those commands and waits until the whole page is completely loaded and ready to go, ready to receive commands. That way there's less chance for any kind of error. Now, navigate doesn't do that. whenever our computer goes ahead and sends the code and sends all those instructions to our drivers and to the browsers, whether the website was loaded or ready or not, it's going to send it. Now, there's ways of getting around that, and there's certain weights that we can use, and we'll talk about weights in another video. They're very, very important with Selenium, but that's just kind of the key difference. So get here, we can go ahead and navigate to our URL, and it goes ahead and waits for the page to completely load before we send any other commands to that page. Now, navigate doesn't do the weight for us, but we can add one. We'll talk about weights later, as I mentioned, but it also tracks the history of our browsing, right? So as we see here in our example, we're first going to go to Google, then we're going to go to Facebook. Then with this back command, we should go back to Google. Then with the forward command, we should go over here to Facebook. And then lastly, we have refresh, and we should be able to just refresh the page for Facebook. So let's go ahead and see that run. Here we go. Google, Facebook, show back to Google, there we go, back to Facebook, and then refreshed. Happened pretty quick, but it did refresh. All right, guys, so that's navigational commands, the differences between them, and some of the capabilities, an example of how we can use them. And guys, your imagination is key here, and how we can use that when we're doing, cross-browser testing or any other kind of test cases here. It really, really is a great tool that we can use. All right, guys, so that's it for me for today with navigational commands. Please go ahead and watch and rewind if you need to catch that again. And I'll see you in the next one, guys. Happy coding.